Welcome, everybody. We are data strategy professionals, and thanks for joining. Tessie, you want to take it away?
Yeah, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be learning about the Certified Analytics Professional. My name is Teresa Miruri, but you can call me Tessie, and I have taken the CAP Essentials Level exam in May of this year. Also a CDMP Professional, that's a separate certification for data management. I have about 6+ years of experience in the world of IT, risk, data analytics, governance, specializing in the financial services industry. I'm currently based in London, and I'm currently also pursuing a master's degree in analytics at Georgia Institute of Technology. And Nicole is based in Georgia, so we have that one common bit. I am Kenyan. I moved to London a couple of years ago. So the first discussion for today is, why does it even matter? Why should we think about taking the CAP examination? One thing about the CAP examination, it is vendor neutral. And by that, I mean thinking about analytics in a strategic way. It is not tied to any tool, any technologies. And that means the knowledge that you gain by obtaining the CAP certification can be applied anywhere, regardless of the tools and technologies that you're using. Again, Informs is a body that regulates and creates this certification. It is trusted by top organizations, and it will be helpful for your personal case if you're getting a promotion or you want to demonstrate your understanding about data problems and analytical problems from a business perspective. And obviously, you get credibility. It is one way to credentialize your skills. It's one way to show employers, to show people that you actually understand what you're doing. Informs revised this CAP examination this year. Initially, we had just the CAP exam and the ACAP exam. They have introduced 3-tier framework, and that is the CAP Essentials. And this is mostly for entry-level professionals or people transitioning into the data world or in the analytics world. We have CAP Pro, and we have the CAP X, which is the topmost level of this certification. I have personally done the Essentials exam in May of this year, and I did it at the beta level. So they did have a beta exam before the official release. The CAP Essentials, as I said, the target audience for this is early professionals, people in school. Maybe you're doing a bachelor's or master's degree, and you want to start stating your credibility for your understanding of analytical problems in the business sense. And as you know, most of the things we do in school can be quite academic and theoretical, but having a CAP certification enables you to apply the skills and techniques you learned in school in a business sense. The exam structure for this one is 100 multiple choice questions, and it's 3 hours. There are no strict requirements on the experience that you need to take the examination. The next one is the Pro or CAP P, and the target audience for this is someone who is a bit experienced, someone who is moving from an individual contributor in an organization and they want to start managing analytics projects. It's also good for people who are in mid-career and you're looking to advance your skills and your career in analytics. This exam, they haven't released it yet, so there's a beta testing window that will open this fall. You can keep your eye on the CAP website and you will see updates for the beta exam. The good thing is, once you do the beta exam, the grade and the credentials you will get will still be counted as if you did the full exams, and the cost for the beta exam is slightly lower than the formal certification cost. Same structure, 100 multiple choice questions and 3-hour limit. In some cases for the beta exam, you might find more than 100 questions, but the ones that are graded are 100 questions. Finally, the CAP X. This is targeted for senior analytics professionals who lead organizations and help to even instill the analytics culture in an organization. So think about someone who is in the strategy, someone who talks to senior leaders, someone who wants to influence the direction of a business from a strategic point. And it's aimed for people with 2+ years of experience with master's degree and 4+ years of experience in bachelor's degrees. Before you take this exam, there's a soft skill requirement where when you're filling in the application, you give an email of a previous colleague, previous boss, and they're able to attest that you have the soft skills to take this examination. The soft skill might be managing people. It's a demonstration that you can actually maybe lead people, communicate well. So it's not a very strict in terms of what they need to show. But one tip, if you're registering for the exam, you might want to talk to the person that will give your soft skills requirement for them to fill in exactly what you want them to communicate. The 3 levels of exam are based on these 7 domains as part of the Informs Analytics framework. As you can see, the data has the heaviest weight here. And obviously, it's because in analytics, we are dealing with data. But before we get to the data section, we have business problem framing, analytics problem framing, because in real life, most analytics projects fail, not because they don't have the technical skills to do it, but because they haven't defined the problem they want to solve first initially. So it's better to first ask yourself what business problem exists. How do we translate this business problem to an analytics problem? And once you do the first two steps, then you can go to the data. Where are we getting the data? But having a really clear direction before you even go to the data is very important. And then we have the methodology selection. That's when you choose the different approaches you're going to use. You start developing the model, deploying the model, and then lifecycle management. This is maintaining the model in BAU. And as I said, when you want to do this certification, you will notice that they're not heavy on the technologies. They don't prescribe you to use any technology. What this certification aims to give you is that analytical mindset of solving business problems, translating business problems from business to analytics. It's good because you're not required to do technical things in the exam. So it's just general understanding of what it means for an analytical problem to be solved in business language. As I said earlier, the exam structure, multiple choice format with one correct answer. It takes 3 hours, and exams are offered in test centers as well as online. No notes, no materials allowed, and you get your results after 48 hours. In terms of the exam structure, we have factual knowledge, scenario-based applications, process and methodology questions. So the difference between the level of depth or the nature of questions you get in the 3 tiers of the examination, CAP E has all the scenario-based questions, but depth of questions or the level of understanding of the analytics that you need to know to answer questions in the E level is not as required in the expert level. So you can imagine the questions you get asked in the expert level are more on the heavy side of actual implementation, and the level of knowledge that you're required to have to answer this question is mostly on a higher level of experience. The exam fees are displayed here. We have the difference for members, non-members. Then there's a subsidized fee for people from developing countries that can be found on the CAP website as well. So it's slightly lower than this. You can also retake the exam if you fail, but the statistics show that most people pass the exams in their first trial, and you can also get a refund. Then let's go to test preparation strategies. As you've seen in this slide, the data one is the heaviest in terms of weight. I would advise that you focus on the heavier weight domains. This is because when I was taking the Essentials exam, there are more questions that focus on the data domain. So focus on the heavier ones and don't neglect the low percent ones. The other thing, as I say, this is a very practical based certification. After reading the concepts, ensure you think of a scenario where that concept can be applied. So even when you're doing your reading, ensure that you don't just read the concepts, understand the concept, and think even about how you can apply that in real life in your work, or how that can be applied in a real life situation. When I was reading for this exam, I was simulating different scenarios, and I was creating a persona of, I assume I am an analytics manager in maybe a transport company, in a marketing company. There's so many different industries. All industries these days require this knowledge of analytics. Once you do that, practice with real life scenarios, you're able to even respond to a question that maybe you had not read about it enough. But the more comfortable you get with scenarios during the reading, the more comfortable you will be to answer the question. And then master the Informs Analytics framework. So this is the analytics framework. What you will find on the CAP website, there's something called a blueprint. A blueprint expands on the things that you need to know for each domain. So business problem framing, there are different questions that you need, different objectives for each. This can even guide your learning. On top of that, it can also help you to have a framework of reference in your mind when you're doing the examination. There's some questions for the exam that maybe hard or you don't know what means at that point in time. But once you read the question and you think about where in the domains fall, it helps you to structure your thinking during the exam, and you're able to respond. You're easily able to know. For example, you see a question, it's talking probably about descriptive statistics, prescriptive statistics. You probably don't have a straightforward answer for it, but you know that comes under methodology selection. If people talk about metrics, metrics, measuring model performance, that is maybe deployment. If people talk about maybe post-deployment, what happens? You're able to create a frame of reference in your mind, even though you don't know the answers to all the exam questions, you're able to refer back to it. When you're learning this particular task, they are called blueprint, there's the domain and the different objectives. So this is the objective I want to achieve by the time I'm finishing reading this. And then 100 questions. So target maybe 1.5 minutes for every question. You can flag difficult questions and then come back to them and then just answer every question. And there's no penalty if you have a wrong answer. Then there's a CAP glossary, a list of terms describe each of the domains, and they break it down by domain, maybe definition of analytics, a business problem, whatever different terms. So how I view this is you might be learning online. When you see a term in the glossary, read the definition of the term and then try to tie that back to the blueprint. Where in the blueprint does this apply to? And then look for a scenario in real life where that can be applied to. So why does the CAP pay off? I think it gives you credibility. Once you're understanding the entire analytics life cycle, once you're able to speak the business language to technical people, you act as the gap between the business people who don't understand tech stuff and the tech staff who don't understand the business. So that is a very sweet spot to be, and it is very important in most organizations because you find that in most organizations, there's a very big disconnect between the people who actually do the technical implementation and the people who actually make the decisions. Once you can sit down in a room, maybe with a C-suite member, and you're able to explain to them, why do we need to invest in this analytics solution? Because this is the ROI, this is what we'll get, this is how we frame them. So once you're able to speak that businessy language to technical people and the technical language to the other side of the world, you become a key resource in an organization. Then once you get certified, you get access to CAP Professional Network. If you go on LinkedIn, the people who are CAP certified, they're people with a lot of experience. And there's this thing where if people see you belong to that community, they're able to help you. You can reach out to different people. You can get help on tasks, on jobs. You become part of a community that gives you access to even bigger opportunities. And again, as we all know, a certification is the start to a journey. And that's the journey to applying these terms in real life. The certification is just an entry point to a lot more in the analytics world. And obviously, you might potentially get higher salary. And because you have to maintain your CAP certification, the amount of effort you put to learn more, to keep yourself updated, it keeps you grounded, it keeps you motivated to be able to continue learning more and more. And when you see other people doing the project, when you see other people post on their LinkedIn or their social networks, I think it motivates you to keep going and to keep learning. I think that's the end of my presentation. And last, Nicole, if you have any point to add.
I thought that was amazing, Tessie. I really appreciate how you linked this back to your experience studying for the test. It was really, really helpful. So I appreciate you going into detail on your study recommendations. And yeah, from Informed standpoint, like up in the air, there are timelines for releasing the CAP Pro beta, for example. So guys, definitely keep your eyes peeled for updates. Chaya asks, how many years is the certification valid for?
It's valid for 3 years. Yeah, 3 years.
Okay, awesome. Okay, Eric asks, how known is this certification in the US compared to overseas?
I think it's a very US-based certification so far. It's actually more in the US, and I'm not really sure how much people overseas know about it. But I'm just imagining that now that Informs have revised the exam structure and pre-tier, it will become common and they will probably promote it more than they have done before. So I think it will be widespread across.
Yes, I agree. Informs is based in the United States. So yes, I think it's possible that it's mostly popular in the US. But then again, it is interesting that our entire CAP team is based outside the US. It is perhaps known other places, but I would say probably it's US centric just because that's where Informs is located. And there's certainly an international organization as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Eric.
There's another question on chat. Will you recommend MSc in analytics or this certification? I think they're not mutually exclusive. Like you can do both. And I say this because I'm currently taking my master's degree and I have the certification as well. And because MSc in analytics is very technical in terms of it teaches you the different programming languages, the different tech stack. I think the difference MSc is a bit more technical, but this certification helps you to bridge that gap between the academic side of things into real life application. So I think you can, because definitely also an MSc is heavy, it takes more than a year, and this certification you can study within a few months. So I would say it depends on what you want out of it. Yeah. If you have the technical skills already and you want to be able to demonstrate your business understanding, I would recommend you take the certification. I want to learn all these programming languages. I want to go on the technical heavy side. I would recommend you do an MSc, but you can do both.
Great answer. Based, again, in Tessie's specific experience.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And then just to clarify or voice over for everybody, you do not have to take the exams in a specific order. So you can just jump straight into the level that you believe, based on the requirements of that level, is the best fit for you. All right. Long question here.
Let me read it out.
I know.
Nowadays, business relies on analytics to produce insightful data. KRIs, KCIs, KPIs are used to drive decision around progress, maturity, level of data risk exposure within an organization for continuous process improvement. This takes a big jump with AI, where data model have big impact on the predictive versus insightful. What has been your experience with analytics with use of AI? Let me try to rephrase your question. I think you're asking what is my understanding of analytics now with the new wave of AI. Okay, before we even go to the AI side of things, I think AI is as good as the data that you feed it or that it relies on. And I think from my experience, because I work a lot with financial services companies, they're trying to go the AI way. They're trying to say, we want to implement this AI model. We are trying to uptake this new term, new thing that has come up. And what we've realized is they don't even know that they're not ready for it because how they manage their data behind the scenes is not in the best way. So the quality of data, the nature of data that they need to use to even feed into those models is not as good. We have the AI wave going, but I still think organizations and people need to still go back to the basics of how well is this data. And that's why we have these disciplines of data management, data governance to make the AI model as good. I wanted to also talk about like this in the context of this CAP. So look at CAP from a point, it helps you to define the business problem. It helps you to ask the right question before you even start a project. Because as I said earlier, most analytics projects don't fail because people don't have the skills. They fail because people don't understand the business problem they're trying to solve. So I think the experience is everything coming up, AI, Gen AI, agentic AI, we still need to go back to the basics of how well do we manage this data. And from the other side, what business problem are we trying to solve? Are we just trying to adopt AI because it is a nice to have? So what problem are we solving? And if we solve this problem, what will you gain out of it? So those are important questions to ask, but I still think we need to go back to the basics when it comes to AI analytics.
I thought that was a great answer. I hope, Mike, that it answered your question, but I definitely think it speaks to the importance of the skills that the CAP exam imparts, because it is really helpful for building that process, like how the domains build sequentially upon each other and teach you those fundamental skills so that you are actually answering the right question with the data that you have. So yeah, it really does actually speak to the value of this fundamental skill set. AI allows you to run faster in the wrong direction. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. That was very insightful. All right. Thanks for coming. And thank you, Tessie, for your presentation. That was very helpful.
Thank you for having me, Nicole.
All right. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.